Moving on to the part two of our presentation, which is how to have a sustainable structure. What are the important things which you must keep in mind in the long term health and the stability of the organization? So, we'll touch upon a few things and few recommendations here. The financial documents and the records which your organization maintains, that will go a long way in the health of the organization to be in check. This will be the key ways to give confidence to donors, to external audit parties, and also at the end of the day, for you to always have a clear audit trail to ensure that there is a proper, effective, and efficient utilization of your grants and the monies which are being spent for the objectives for which you've been set up. We normally recommend that you must keep in mind the OCF, which is the operational compliance and the financial reporting obligations which organizations like yourselves have. The operational aspects would obviously ensure effective and efficient use of resources. Compliance is something which you must pay very specific attention to as the scale of operations increase. And then financial reporting, which will be the basis for understanding the health of your organization and also to convey to the external parties what kind of utilization has been done for what particular projects. In this context, we normally see there is an inverse correlation between the quality of internal controls and the amount of risk which you face. The higher the quality of your internal controls, lower is the risk. And at the end of the day, the low risk entities are those which are getting larger amount of grants. And also, as you move down in the ladder, the level of risk increases. And therefore, when you are granting money from your organization to other organization or to the general community or individuals at large, the internal controls need to be more and more stable and more working in a manner to ensure that you get the correct answers. Finally, when you're looking at the framework, the receipt, which is the first part of the exercise, you need to also ensure that there is a proper arrangement with yourselves and the eventual donor, which is the receipt of money. Fine. The second step would be the expenditure, which is the procurement, delivery, and disbursing of the money and the reporting of that to the respective parties. Finally, the requisition will be telling the donors how the money was spent and also acknowledging the various purposes for which the money was spent and whether the objectives the organization that received the money they've actually been met or not. The important checkpoints which you need to be aware is to have a clear financial reporting policy, which means the dates for your financial year, the accounting method, which means the cash or the accrual system of accounting that you would be following, the various compliances which would be applicable to you. You should always have a statutory compliance checklist which covers the various items of compliance which you need to be doing from different times. Establishment of a budget is again something which is very essential. Both the timing and the approval process of budget determine the successful implementation of your objectives. And then lastly, as I mentioned, at the end of the financial period, you must do a proper review and analysis of the money which is spent and the objectives, whether they've been met or not. In terms of the control environment, you obviously need to get an audit done. Whether it is an internal audit or only a statutory audit depends on the scale of your operations. The larger the scale of your operations, you need to also have internal controls in addition to the statutory audits which are done by external auditors. A proper compliance reporting policy needs to be in place where you identify your key stakeholders, the frequency of the reports which are being presented, and then general reporting policy, which means dissemination of the information to the public at large, both in terms of attracting more grants and also to have a transparent structure, which is one of the key reasons a large number of organizations are looking for transparency whenever they're looking to go for fund allocation and to get more funds from both domestic as well as international donors. A few things which we as chartered accountants have seen, which normally either perpetrate some sort of a fraud, or else these are things which you should keep in mind whenever an internal control system is defined. We've seen because of scale restrictions, there is an overlap of duties, which is an absolute no and should be avoided. There should be proper physical controls for valuable assets and title documents of assets which are kept, including the accounting records, which should not have the ability to be edited, which should not have the ability to be altered in backdate. All such things need to be given. And again, a documentation to this effect must be in place. There should be proper authorization controls, which would define what are the limits for which approvals need to be sought from different hierarchical members of the organization. And in case there is an overlap, then that needs to also distinctly be identified.